Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Isabel and this is my library. In today's video, I will be sharing with you all the spectacular things that I read the month of September. Wow. Wow is the perfect word for me to describe to you my reading month of September. I read a good amount of stuff. I read things I wanted to read, and it shows because, guys, everything I read this month was either a 4 or 5 star read. Like, I am so happy with my September reading. I was picking things, I was filming vlogs, I was doing videos that pulled me into all of these books that were just perfect for me. It was difficult for me to even like sit there and rank these things, and obviously I did, right? I ranked them. I'm going to present them to you in my order of favorites, but man, this was a great reading month, and I can't wait for October. I only hope October is even better. I mean, I already started reading a couple things for October, even though it's only October 2nd, and I'm loving all of them. I'm excited. I'm excited. But I won't get to October. This video is all about September, and September deserves all of the fanfare and the celebration because it was that good of a reading month. So I'm going to go ahead and start you with my stats. So I went ahead and read 10 books, in quotation marks for me, 10 books total, right? So I say books loosely, but I'll just tell you I read 10 things in the month of September. I read a total of 1,735 pages, which is about average for me these months. Back to school and creating content, and that's pretty much where I normally land, 1,500 to 2,000 pages more or less each month. Now, the breakdown of what I read: I did read 2 literary fiction novels. I read 1 thriller novel. I did read 4 short stories, which is why I say books loosely, because 4 of my reads of those 10 were short stories. I read 2 horror novellas and 1 manga. The format in which I read everything: 2 of those were ebook versions or PDF versions. 6 of them I read physically and audio paired up, so I did some combo reads there. Physically when I was able to read with my eyeballs, and then audiobook when I was running errands, working out, cooking, driving, the usual. And then lastly, I read 4 of these things solely physically. So now that you've seen my stats, I'm going to start off with the short stories. So that's what I want to talk to you first about, because these short stories were all rereads for me. I was prepping a video that is already up on my channel. I'll go ahead and make sure that I link it down below so you can catch it if you haven't seen it. But I did actually work on 2 videos. I worked on a video of strictly Edgar Allan Poe stories. That video is up on my channel. And I also worked on a video of classic horror stories. That's also up on my channel. And so I did reread a couple of the stories that I felt I wanted to kind of refresh on before I did this video. They're all stories that I've read multiple times. They're all stories that I love. There are a lot of stories there that I have taught in my classroom before, and I just needed a refresher on some of them, and I did go ahead and read them, and I did want to add them to my total. Obviously, they're short stories, so page count is relatively short, but I still like to document it as something that I did read, right? But I'm not including it in my ranking video. I will tell you what the stories are, and I'll refer to you to those other videos so you can learn more about the stories. But basically, I'm just going to mention them here very quickly and then point you to those other videos to watch them. And then once I've talked about the 4 short stories, I will rank the rest of the new things that I did read this month. So the short stories that I did read this month, one of them was Bernice by Edgar Allan Poe, and I tell you all about it in that video. But Bernice is one of those horrific short stories that not a lot of people know about and not a lot of people talk about. And so I decided to include it in that video because it is one of my favorite Edgar Allan Poe short stories. I also read The Pedestrian by Ray Bradbury, and this is a very short story that is a dystopian, futuristic, technological kind of story, and it takes place in the future in 2053. And if you are interested, I think it's a gem. Ray Bradbury has so many great short stories, so many works, and I did reread this one for that classic horror story video. I also went ahead and, in the same vein, reread I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, and it was a great rereading experience. I did pair it up with the audio. There's a wonderful audio version of this, and it's just such a cool experience. It has like all these very cool sound effects, like kind of computery sound effects, and it's a lot of fun. And the last short story that I'm going to talk to you about here that I read or reread is The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. And you guys know I love Shirley Jackson, and The Lottery is such a classic. I actually reread this with my students this year, not my actual students, but my club members. We did reread this in Literary Society, which is one of the clubs that I sponsor in my school. And the kids decided they wanted to pick a short story. So we gave them 3 options. They voted on The Lottery, and we sat down and dimmed the lights and made some popcorn and read the short story together. And it was a reread for some of my club members, but it was also a brand new read for a lot of the kids who were there in that meeting, and they really enjoyed it. And we had so many wonderful conversations based on The Lottery, and we related it to so many things, and it really got them thinking. And I thought it was such a fun experience. So again, those were the 4 short stories that I read this month for video projects, and those videos are up on my channel, and I will link them down below so that you can catch them in case that you missed them. And now I'm ready to tell you about the other things that I read this month and rank them and tell you how much I love them and gush about them and all of these things. Starting with, and I usually do this for my wrap ups, I start with the thing I liked the least, and then I work my way toward what I like the most this month. But as you already heard, everything is a 4 or 5 star. So this first book I'm going to begin with was a 4-star read for me. It was actually the first thing I read this month, and it's at the bottom of the list, but man, this is a great list. So don't let that dissuade you. All of these books come highly recommended. So at the bottom of my list with a 4-star rating, we have The Cheerleaders by Kara Thomas. So this had been on my TBR for a really long time. Then it actually got moved to my physical TBR for a month because I pulled the title out of my TBR jar, which now I'm excited about because that means that since I got something off of the TBR jar read, I get to go ahead and pick again from my TBR jar for my October TBR. So I'm excited whenever I get to do that. So The Cheerleaders by Kara Thomas reads a little bit like a mystery slash thriller, and it is YA, and it feels YA but not really. So I'll tell you more about that now in a minute. So The Cheerleaders is basically following a high school student, and she is a member of the dance team of her school. Her school no longer has a cheerleading squad because a couple years prior there were a few incidents that led to accidents and deaths of some of the members of the cheerleading squad. So she's a dancer, and she's going through some stuff at the beginning of the book, which is what kind of brings me to telling you that although this is YA, it kind of feels a little bit more mature. Our main character is dealing with some adult like problems in her life that she's trying to square away. She is still very much traumatized by the death of her sister, who was a cheerleader, and she's very curious to find out the details of what happened to her sister and uncover some of those clues, which is why I'm telling you this kind of reads like a murder mystery kind of book. but it does have the thriller pacing and the thriller kind of cliffhangers at the ending of the chapters. And obviously, it is YA because we are following a cast of high school students. And I thought it was a very solid murder mystery. My only kind of disconnect was at the beginning. I felt like the characters were not acting their age. They were acting way older than their age. So that to me felt, a little bit off. Like I thought instead of being like a sophomore or junior, whatever she is at the beginning of the book, she kind of felt more like a college student. So I felt that that was a little bit off. But other than that, I was really impressed with Kara Thomas and her writing and how engaged I was and interested I was in this story. I think it does a good job of wrapping up all the loose ends. And yeah, I was definitely very, very impressed. I do know that they have a second part to this, or there's another book called The Champions, and I just actually recently hauled that in one of my videos, and I'm excited to read from Kara Thomas again. I thought this was a very, very cool mystery thriller YA book. So, next on my list, coming at 5 stars, the second book I'm going to talk to you about comes in at 5 stars. That means, guys, that everything else I read this month was a 5-star read. So I basically had this one 4-star read and all of these 5 stars. I mean, this is mind blowing. This is just, I'm so happy for myself. Like, this is wonderful. I can't. So coming in next, I rated 5 stars. Danganronpa Volume 3. So, as you guys know, I have picked up all 4 of these volumes and I have already read and loved volumes 1 and 2. Gave volume 1 a 5-star, gave volume 2 a 4-star, and this was volume 3, which I gave 5 stars. And I cannot wait next month, hopefully, to finish the series. I think I told you guys previously, I already know where the story's going because I did play the video game. It's Danganronpa first game, and I did play that a while back and I loved it. So I do know like the answers to the mysteries throughout, but I'm just loving it. And I won't tell you too many details about this one because it is volume 3 in a series, but I'll reiterate again in case you're new to my channel or you haven't watched my other videos where I talk about these books. Danganronpa is basically a manga that is based on Danganronpa Volume 1, the video game. So in this, we are following a group of students, high school students, who get accepted into this a preparatory school. It's like a private school, and they are all known for being famous at something. They are all stars for different things, except for our main character, who is just known for being the luckiest person because he gets invited to be a student in the house, even though he's a nobody. Like no one knows who he is, so that's why he's Mr. Nobody, right? But everyone else is known for various things, for bodybuilding, for being a pop star, for being a writer, for being, all these different things, right? And so um they all gather around the first day of school, and they find out that the headmaster has imprisoned them in this high school, and they are basically forced to play a game, and it is a deadly game. And basically what they have to do is they have to kill the classmates and avoid being caught, and if they're able to do that, they're able to escape. And so what ends up happening is obviously classmates start to get murdered, but they have a trial after every murder, and if they guess who the murderer is, that person is then eliminated from the game and the world and life, and they continue playing the game. So that's currently where we are at. There are quite a few characters that have already gone missing, meaning they have been done away with. And yeah, we're pretty much in the thick of it at this point after this volume. But I'm so excited to read that last one. If you're a person who likes this premise and you're not a gamer, I recommend that you read these. They're wonderful. However, if you are a gamer and for some reason you haven't heard of Danganronpa before, I recommend that you play the games. They're available on most consoles, I believe, as well as the computer for Steam, and they're wonderful if you enjoy kind of visual novels with sprinklings of guessing and completing like puzzles. If you like all of that, I think you'll love it. And it's very dark, it's very bloody, it's very gory. But if you're into that, it's a wonderful gaming experience and reading experience. So next on my list is A Short Stay in Hell by Stephen L. Peck, and this I did give a 5-star rating to. And this is actually part of a vlog that I am currently working on, and it's a 5-star prediction vlog where I read 3 horror slash mystery slash thriller books that I predicted I would give 5 stars to. And this is one of the books that I decided to read for that, and it was a 5-star. And so basically, in this horror novella, as you see, it's pretty short, it's about 110 pages or so. In this horror novella, we are following a main character who wakes up and he's in hell. So he is cognizant that he has died. He had a form of cancer and died at the age of 40 something, and he's in hell and he can't understand why he's in hell. And he is met by a group of other people who have recently arrived at hell as well, and they are greeted by this demon creature who assigns them what section of hell they're going to be in. And our main character is shocked that he's in hell. He was a practicing Mormon. He had all these notions and beliefs of what the afterlife was going to be like for him, and he did not expect that this is what was going to end up happening. So when it is his turn to speak to the demon looks at his life over, and he basically says, well, you liked reading in your lifetime and you were like an intellectual and an academic, so your hell is the library. And so he sends him off to the library. Now, there's this concept that we are not stuck in this hell forever, that you can actually find a way of exiting hell. And for him, it's basically he has to find a book in this library that is just incredibly large and big and expansive. He has to find the book of his life, he has to find the book that details his life. And that's basically his hell for eternity until he's able to do that, searching amongst these shelves and miles of books for the book of his life. And I found this to be so wonderful. I think it's a great existentialist piece. Reminds me so much of other things that I love, like Borges' The Library of Babel, or Jean-Paul Sartre's No Exit. So it's very reminiscent of works like that. And I found this to be just so enlightening, so refreshing, so interesting and entertaining. It was also very scary. It had some horrific moments as well. And I just thought it was a wonderful rendition of things that were familiar to me that I had read before in a very cool, innovative kind of way. And I love that it does allude to these other works, so it's very aware of what it's doing as a project. So I was very, very impressed by this, and I definitely recommend it. And so the next thing I read that I gave 5 stars to and absolutely loved is Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. And this is a book that I also read for that same vlog project of 5-star predictions. And my predictions were accurate. I absolutely loved this. First, let me tell you the premise of it. So in this, we are following Rosemary. She likes to be called Ro, who has recently broken up with her long-term boyfriend. She has moved to a new place to get a new fresh start. She is a college professor, a TA specifically in English, and she's also a writer. And I love that. First of all, I love the characterization for Ro. I really enjoyed that she was a teacher, an English teacher like I am. And, I really enjoy anytime we are following a character who is a reader, who is a writer, who teaches, who's an academic, who's an English major. So I was all about that. And so one day, Ro goes to this farmer's market, which I love farmer's markets. I love going to farmer's markets. I love finding little things. My husband's always making fun of me because I'm always begging him to take me, and most of the time I don't really buy much, but I just love being there, and I love like the promise of finding some cool thing, you know. So anyway, she's there and she stumbles upon this little stall with this woman who makes cupcakes, and she makes soaps, and she has plants for sale, and it's like a lot of like, you know, handmade, handcrafted kinds of things, from pots to soaps to delicious cupcakes to, you know, a variety of things. And she kind of calls her shop Ash's Apothecary, so it's got that kind of a vibe. And immediately she's enthralled by this girl. She thinks she's beautiful, she's the most beautiful woman she's ever seen. She's mesmerized and captivated by her. And pretty soon she can't get enough. Like, she needs to go every Saturday to the market to buy her delicious cupcakes, to interact with her, to spend time with her. And what develops or blooms is this relationship between them. And I mean, it sounds like a romance novel, but I will tell you it's not. This is actually a horror novella. It does take a minute to kickstart the horror. It does take a minute for it to ramp up, right? And I was, you know, and since I vlogged this experience, that video's not up yet, but it will be up soon. I was kind of like, okay, I don't know how much of a horror this is. Why are people calling this horror? It does have some creepy moments, you know, it does have like a lot of creepy moments, which I tabbed with my little horror. You know, I do like tabbing things with the different elements, and my horror tab is this one. So there are a couple of them, but it takes a long time to get there. But when it gets there, guys, it's so worth it. This was wild. This was such a wild ride. Um, at first, I was kind of like, oh, is this a 4.5 star or 5 star? But it definitely felt after I finished like a 5 star. My only grievance with it or whatnot is that Ro is just too blind for me, or too innocent for me. And maybe that's just commentary, right? On when we fall in love. Maybe we're all kind of blind when we fall in love and we fail to see what's staring right at us, right? So I don't know, but that was my only kind of pet peeve. But this is still a 5 star read. The language is beautiful, it's so poetic, there's so many allusions. I think it's any person who loves books and reading and English, or has studied English, will love this, because they're constantly referencing Shakespeare or Oscar Wilde, or, you know, things like that. So I really, really enjoyed this. I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful read, and it is a super, super fast read. So I highly recommend this. I mean, I think this is the whole thing with this video. I highly recommend everything. I mean, I absolutely loved it. So you're gonna keep, every time I pitch a book to you, I'm gonna tell you I highly recommend it. So now we're down to the last two books, second and first place for the month of September. And this is how good this month was, guys. Like, everything was fighting with everything for first place. And it's just, I don't know. So this is in second place with obviously a 5 star rating, is Culpability by Bruce Hossinger. I read this as a part of a buddy read that I did with my booktube friends, Michelle from Literary Me and Dee from the Reading Room 1972. I will make sure that I include or tag both of their channels down below. If you're not following them, I recommend that you do. I do buddy reads with them pretty often, and this was our pick for the month of September to read together. Michelle actually went ahead and picked this. I was also interested in this book because it is an Oprah selection for her book club, and you guys know, if you're not new to my channel, you know that I do enjoy reading the celebrity book clubs, and this was one of those that was on my radar for that reason. And I already have on my channel up our live discussion for this book. So the three of us do live discussions after all of our buddy reads, and I do have that video up on my channel. I will link it down below in case you want our complete non-spoilery and then spoilery thoughts on this book. But we had so much to say. It was such a wonderful conversation. This is such a good book for a buddy read. It's a great book club book. So if you have a book club, or you're allowed to suggest a book for a book club, I highly recommend this for that, because it just brings up so many interesting topics. So I'll go ahead and start telling you a little bit about this book. So the premise of this is that we are following a family who is going um, on a little trip, if you will, because it's the mom, the dad, the older son, and the two younger siblings, female daughters. So we have a family of five. And so the son has been accepted into the college of his choice. He got a lacrosse scholarship. He is on his way driving with the family to a tournament of sorts for lacrosse because he's still kind of wrapping up his high school experience and club experience with lacrosse before he heads out in the fall to his university. It's that summer right before he goes off to college. And the family is together in the car. The son is at the wheel. The dad is in the front, writing some emails, doing some work on his computer. The mom is doing the same in the back, and the two daughters are also in the back seat. And so the book immediately kicks off with this trip, and it is a smart car. It's like a driverless kind of car. So basically, the son is at the wheel, but the car is driving itself. And all of this is important to, what this whole book is about. And something happens, which I obviously won't tell you anything that's too spoilery, but something happens that there is a car accident. They're involved in a car accident, and it's a pretty bad accident. Their family members are hurt, but nothing terrible happens to them. But the mom is hurt, and the two daughters all require hospitalization, and they're there for a while. But the worst part is that the couple they crash into is an elderly couple, and they both die on the scene of the accident. So there is two deaths as a result of this accident. And the book is basically then exploring this concept of culpability, right? Who is to blame for this? And this is where all of these important, smart conversation topics arise, because we have a lot of conversation about AI. We have a lot of conversation about our technology and how much responsibility we as humans have since we did create this technology. So, do we share blame with technology? Do we share blame with these AI beings that we have created? We also have AI as not just driverless technology in vehicles, but we also see a lot of like chatting with AI entities, and what that does for us as humans. So there's those conversation pieces, and I just thought that this was so wonderfully written. It's such a smart book. The project, I'm big on that. Like, if I love the project of what this author was trying to do, and if they're able to pull it off, to me that's definitely worth reading and picking up. And I feel like he lands it. It's such a realistic description of these characters, and I feel like they're very well developed. And it just made me think a lot, like, and it made me think of how nothing happens in a vacuum, how everything that happens in our lives has a reason for happening, and that there's basically like, many, like if something terrible happens, there's many avenues we can explore to share blame or place blame, that nothing is just one person guilty of. And there's many elements at play for all the things that happen in our lives. So I thought that was such a brilliant point, and that's why culpability is a 5-star read for me, and it was so high on my list of September reads, and of course I highly recommend it. And now I'm going to share with you my favorite book of this month. This book was so special to me. I don't know, I don't have words to tell you how special I found this book to be. So, coming in as my favorite read of the month of September, rating it 5 stars, of course, is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. So, this was a buddy read that I did with my best friend Angela. We have our own in person book club, which is just us two. Um, we have done this many different times in our lives, and we've recently, maybe like a year and a half, 2 years ago, revamped our book club, and it's going strong. And she's so good about getting things off of my TBR, And this is a book that has been on my TBR forever. It was such a hugely anticipated book for me. This came out in 2022, and I bought it as a book of the month exactly when it came out. And it's been sitting there on my shelves for 3 years. And I knew I would love it. I knew because of the premise, or the little bit I knew of this book, I knew it would be one of my favorite books. And I'm so glad I finally read it. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the premise of the book, so that you can see why it was such a perfect book for me. So, in this, we are following this character named Sam and Sadie and Marks. Those are like the three main characters. And basically, Sam and Sadie are childhood friends. And again, I won't spoil a lot of things. This is a very lengthy book, by the way. This is over 400 pages, but I won't spoil too much for you, and I have to be careful because since it's taking place throughout their lives, like I don't want to say too much. But basically, they're childhood friends, and they become close and become such good friends because they share this love for video games. Video games is what kind of brings them together in the different stages of their lives. And so when they're little, they love playing games, and the whole video gaming thing is probably my favorite part of this book. I'm a video gamer. I grew up gaming my whole life. I still remember being like a tiny little child and my mom buying me the NES. I still remember being like an infant pretty much and playing my mom's old Atari. My mom was also a gamer. She is a gamer. Even before I was born, she was playing her Atari. And so I kind of grew to love games from the moment that I would see her playing her Atari. And then when the NES came out and I was a tiny little girl, she bought it for me. And so much of my childhood was playing games with my mom or playing games with my brothers or my little friends from the block that would all come over since I always had the newest game and they would come play with me. So as an adult now, video games are still such an important part of my life. I'm a big gamer. I have every kind of console. My husband's a big gamer. That's another thing that, is important to me, that a lot of our love for video games is something that we share because we both have such core memories of how gaming shaped our lives. And so the fact that this book centers around gaming was perfect for me. Another thing, this book opens up and it's taking place in 1994. So I also love that nostalgia of the 90s. Um, I grew up during the 90s, and so everything like that deals with the 90s, I could relate to. The references to various bands or rock bands or games that were coming out at that point and they were playing was just so nostalgic for me. And you guys know I'm big on nostalgia. That's like a big thing for me. So this includes so many of the things I'm passionate about, gaming and nostalgia. And so as we're following Sadie and Sam, they grow up and eventually they both go to study programming and they become video game creators. That's what this whole book is about, their journey as friends and creating these video games that they work on. And so Marks is a friend of Sam's that is a wonderful character. He's probably my favorite character in the book. And so Marks is also a really good friend of theirs, and he helps them with these projects and he becomes their producer for their video games. And yeah, that's really all I want to tell you about. This book is about friendship, it's about love, it's about those very nuanced moments where we drift away from the people we love, but we know we'll always come back to them no matter what. And I just thought this was so beautifully written. I cried in this book. I laughed in this book. I smiled. I literally shed like tears. Like I sobbed in this book. And it just made me feel so many things. And if you like or are remotely interested in any of those things that I said, I cannot possibly recommend this book enough because it's a book that stays with you forever. And the writing is really, really good. I had read from Gabrielle Zevin before. She wrote The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery. I believe that's the full title of that. And I read that book when it came out, I think like 15 years ago. I'm not even sure, but it has to be around there. And I never connected that this was that same author. I wanted to read this book because of the video game elements and the friendship elements and the nostalgia elements. I never connected that this is an author that I've read from before and I love. And this was just so, so special, guys. Like, this book is just very, very important to me. And although it's not a perfect book, I think, there's never going to be a perfect book. Like, there's going to be things you wish would have been handled differently, or that they would, the author would do a little bit differently. But I didn't care. Like, I love this journey. I love this form of storytelling. I loved that I was able to connect to this emotionally on so many levels and relate to it on so many levels. And yeah, I know this was a very important hyped book when it came out. And I know I'm reading it a little bit late in the game. No pun intended. I know I'm reading it a little bit late in the game, but I'm just glad I read it and it came into my life. And I think this is going to be a contender for favorite book of the year. I'm letting you know now, this is a contender, and we will see how it lands on my little bracket when I do that, as I wrap up my reading journal at the ending of this month. But I'm just so happy to have read this, and I recommend this a million times to you if you are interested in any of these things that I've talked about today. And with that, I'm pretty much done. This is my wrap up for the month of September. And it was such a wonderful reading month, guys. So many books I felt passionate about, so many books I loved. There wasn't a single dud. It was just banger after banger. And it makes me so happy. It makes me so happy to be able to, share that with you and share all these books with you. Have you read any of these books? Like, let me know in the comments down below. Did you like them? Did you feel differently or the same about any of these? Did I convince you to pick any of these up? I hope I did, because they're so good. I would love to connect with you in the comments down below. Thank you guys so, so much for watching. If you're still here with me now, please make sure you like this video. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm very close to an important milestone for me in this channel. And yeah, I couldn't be happier with my reading month, and I would love to talk to you a little bit more about it in the comments down below. I promise I'll link down all the channels that I mentioned and all the videos that I mentioned as well. And I look forward to talking to you in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you later. Bye.